going to build the rapid fire dice box Sci-Fi Crate version 2 today. This is the main body, and you've got the chute here. This is for the 12mm version, and the corresponding 12mm door. They fit together and line up so you can see you've got the right parts. That's the bottom hinge closer, which goes onto the bottom of the door, and that also slots up and locks the switch in place. You've got the door the roof inner and outer there, and the topper. There are some supports to remove. There's one there on the bottom of the door outer and some on the side of the topper parts. They just come off very easily. And you've then got the door hinge. This is the slider part that goes on the bottom and holds your dice in place when you're transporting your dice box. So we're going to need some super glue here. This is just regular super glue. I use an applicator to help with the accuracy of positioning where the super glue is actually going to go, because it's important that you don't get glue in places where you don't want it to, such as on any of the moving parts like the door hinge or the switch. So you can see I'm placing some super glue in here into the main body, into the channels where the dice chute is going to go. Just remove a bit of blue tack there from where I've been doing a dry fit. And you can see I'm not putting too much super glue in, it just needs to be enough to hold this in place nice and square. So we'll drop the chute in from the top and hold that in place nice and square, and recommend that you leave that to dry until you move on to the next step. Okay, now that's dry, we're going to move on to fitting the switch and the bottom hinge closer and the main door. So the switch simply goes in the hole in the side of the main body. It's a really loose fit, that's just to get the flange part of the switch through the main body, and that will tighten up once we put the fork part of the bottom hinge closer up, which slides inside and interfaces with it. So the door goes into one side of the hinge closer where there's a hole, and on the other side it's open, and it's going to slot up inside the main body just like I'm showing you here. We're going to need to apply some super glue to the outsides of the hinge body to keep this locked in place. And again, we're making sure here that the super glue isn't going to go on any of the moving parts. So you've got the lock close to that, and you've also got the door hinge. So we need to make sure that there's no glue that's on those or is going to spread onto them while it's drying. So we'll fit the door hinge into the bottom hinge closer like that, holding the door switch in place, slide the whole assembly up into the main body. It is tricky to do this, you've got to hold the door hinge in place and the door whilst keeping the switch in the right position. But once you've got it in there, just press it up and make sure your door switch still moves freely. If it doesn't, give it a wiggle up and down just to help it move. And at this stage we're going to let this dry before moving on to the next step. You can see here the two forks of the bottom hinge closer have locked in place on that switch now. Okay, then we've got the roof inner that goes on the opposite side to the door, and we've got the roof outer that slots on afterwards. Got to make sure that the switch is in the down position, because you can see here that as the switch gets pushed up, it goes into that little notch in the roof, and that is what holds the roof shut when we've got the dice box closed. Now the topper is going to go over the top to hold those hinges in place, and again we're going to need to apply some super glue to the outside here to make sure that it is nice and strongly fixed, but being really careful not to make sure any super glue goes on any of the moving parts of the roof hinges. So I'm putting it on the outside edge, and then also on the main big section there on the outside. Not too much. We can always apply a little bit later on the outside and wipe off any excess. So place that over the top squarely and press it down firmly in all four corners at the same time, and then give it a squeeze on either side just to make sure any gaps that are produced by pressing it down have closed up. And then we're going to go around and just make sure that all those parts are pressed down nicely. What we want to make sure here is it's a really strong joint, so that when we open the roof later to create the hopper for the dice, this is a strong joint and it won't come apart. So I'm going to apply a little bit of extra super glue just on the outside part there. Again, not too much to allow it to flow into the roof hinge. I'm going to wipe off the excess, and I'm going to press and hold this now until that super glue is set. Same on the other side. Now once that's set, we've just got the slider to go in the bottom, and it goes with the notch side in first, slides all the way in, and that little clip on the bottom there, that holds it in place. And your dice box is built. So to open the door, the slider needs to be shifted to the right slightly. I'll just show you here, there is a small little arm on the back of the door. That is there so that you can't open the door when the slider is pushed all the way in, and that's what stops the dice falling out of the dice chute when you've got it in transport. And then to close the roof, press it down and push your switch up, and that'll lock it into that little notch in the roof outer. As you can see, you can't open it when it's locked up. And this might take a little bit of wiggling up and down to get this to move smoothly. The first few times it can be quite stiff. As you can see here, I'm moving it up and down. I'm being careful not to apply too much pressure, not to snap anything, but I am making sure that it's starting to be easier to move it up and down. And that is now locked in place. And to open the door, move the slider out of the way, push it back in, and your dice box is ready to go.
Okay, we're going to build the Stasis Vault rapid fire dice box. We've got the 16mm version here, but the 12mm version works in exactly the same way. Make sure any pre-built supports are removed before you get started. That was the main body. This is the door and the dice chute. The 16mm version goes together. That's the slider that goes on the bottom and keeps all the dice inside in storage. And you've got the two roof parts, the inner and outer, and the outer's got a small hole which fits in with the locking feature, which is on a small part sprue here, along with two hinge closer parts. This is the topper, so this goes on after you've put the roof parts on and locks everything into place. So the first thing we've got to do is remove the small parts from the sprue, clip these off with clippers just like you would do any miniature, and then give them a clean up with your hobby knife. Okay, once that's all done, we'll move on to fitting the dice chute into the main body. So there's two little slots on the inside of the main body where the dice chute legs will slot into, and you want to have it so that the opening of the dice chute is facing into the open area where the door is going to be. That's where the dice are going to come out. So we're going to use regular super glue for this. I'm using it with an applicator that helps get into the tight spaces, but as long as you're not getting glue everywhere, any type of super glue should be fine. So put a little bit of super glue into those two slots and then just place the dice chute in. Make sure it's nice and square, and I would leave this to dry before moving on to the next step, but we're going to get moving on this one. Take the skull lock and slot it into the main body. No glue or anything on this wants to be free moving. And then we take the roof inner and place it on the opposite side of the opening, and the roof outer. So the one with the hole in is on the same side as the lock. Make sure those are in the right position. And then the next thing we're going to do is fit the topper part. This will only go in one way, and we have to apply some super glue here to hold it in place once it's been fitted. So put some super glue on those towers and around all of the flat surfaces. Make sure you don't overspill, make sure none of it goes onto any of the moving parts, so the roof parts or the lock itself, as it will lock up and you won't be able to open it. So just be quite careful here, making sure that you get a little bit of glue on there and not too much. Okay, now for the topper, so we line this up and just drop it straight down and press, making sure that the join is square all the way around. And again, at this point I would leave this to dry in that position. Make sure that the door lock is free and you haven't got any glue on there, and make sure that there's no glue on the roof parts either, that they're free moving. You can see here the roof opens freely, and then when we lock it using the the locking feature, then you won't be able to open the door of the roof anymore. Now we're going to fit the door. There's 2 slots inside the main body where the door hinges need to fit in. So lay it in there like that and then give it a press, and it should click into the hinge in place. And then there are 2 hinge closer parts. These need to go in the right way, so the wider part of the cone needs to go on the inside towards the door. And put a little bit of glue in, again making sure that no glue goes onto the door or the hinge or anything, as you want that to remain moving freely. And then just slot it in, maybe use a hobby knife like I'm doing here to help get it in line, and once you've got it in line it should press down into the right position. And then the same for the other side. Again, at this point I would leave that to dry, put a little bit of glue around the joint just to seal that in place. Okay, and then lastly we've got the slider to go in, so slide that in from one end. You've got the logo facing on the bottom, and on this one the clip is on the right hand side, and you're finished. So again, just check to make sure that all the parts that are supposed to move freely and the locking feature is working fine. Then you're ready to load it with dice. Alright, thanks everyone, and we'll move on to the next build.
Okay, we're going to build the Scrapyard Bunker rapid fire dice box today. You're going to need some super glue, a pair of snips and a craft knife. So first thing, we take the main door and we're going to remove all of the pre-built supports. There's 2 on the front and there's 1 large one on the bottom. On this print there was a little bit of stringing, so I'm going to clean that up right now with the snips. Okay, this is the topper that goes on after the roof parts have been put on. This is the 16mm door. As you can see, it fits in with the 16mm chute. How to build the 12mm version is exactly the same as this, just these 2 parts are different. And then we've got the outer door, outer roof and the inner roof. You can see the outer roof has a small notch on it, and that is for the lock to interface with. And we've got the slider part, and this is the small part sprue. And we're going to remove the lock and the 2 hinge closer parts from the sprue with our snips, just the same as you'd do with any miniature. And we're then going to clean up the sprue attachment points using a hobby knife. Okay, once we've done that, we're going to go ahead and fit the chute. It's worth doing a dry fit to see how it goes together. See the 2 legs of the chute fit into 2 slots on either side of the main body. And we're going to need a little bit of super glue in those slots to hold the chute in place. So carefully, we're going to put some super glue into each of the slots, just a little bit. And then from the top we'll slot the chute right down, making sure it's square and into those slots with the chute opening facing into the open part of the main body. And I would leave it at that point to dry. Once that's dry, take the small part sprue and get the locking feature from it, and that will slot into the main body just like this, and it will have a little bit of friction, and just make sure that you can move it left and right and put it in the left hand side position for the next step. Then we'll take the two roof parts. So the inner roof goes on first, and then the outer roof will slot on over the top, and we'll just make sure that the two cone hinges at either side are sitting above the recesses in the hinge points on the top of the main body. And then this is how the topper will go on over the top, so it will just slide over the top of those, locking those into place. And we're going to need some super glue again to hold that in place, so get your super glue and put it on the risers for the hinges, making sure that we're not getting any on the axles themselves. We don't want to get any glue on the door parts or the locking feature. Basically anything that moves, we want to make sure that the glue is away from them and doesn't squish onto them when we put the roof topper down. Okay, then we take the topper and we slide it straight on over the top and press down on all four corners at the same time, and making sure that we've got a good joint all the way around, pressing it down firmly. And again, at this point I would leave that to dry. Okay, and then we're going to take the door, and there are some axle positions in the main body that the door slots up into, and we push them both into those and give them a press, and on this design it should click into place both sides, holding the door into position and allowing it to rotate freely. You can see from the bottom there how those hinges have gone in. And then to really make sure it won't come out, we've got two hinge closers. Now these two hinge closers have got little guide features down each side, and you've got to make sure that they are fitted in the correct way, so that the cone hole will slot over nicely over the cone of the door. And I'm using a hobby knife here to push those down because they're fairly fiddly. So again, we'll get a little bit of glue. We're going to make sure the glue doesn't go anywhere near the door axle itself. So I'm just putting it on the outside here, and we'll put a little bit more glue on afterwards once it's in place as well. You don't really need these parts for this design. The door does click in, but if you just want peace of mind, then you can put these in at the end. Okay, and then I'm going to take a little bit more glue now and just make sure that they're fitted in place nicely. And then the slider goes straight in, and that is it. You've got your rapid fire Dicebox Scrapyard Bunker complete. Now to open the door, you have to slide the slider out the way. That allows the door to open, and you can slide it back in when you're using it. And the roof is free to open when the switch is positioned to the left. When you position the switch to the right, it should lock into place. Shift that to the right, and now the roof can't open. So you can fill the chute and the bottom with dice, and they won't come apart and spill your dice out in your bag when you take them to your games. And then to close it again, slide the slider to the right, shut the door, close the lid, and then switch your switch to the right, and you're ready to go. Okay, cheers guys, and on to the next one. Okay, so today we're going to build the fuel tank rapid fire Dicebox. And the first thing we're going to do is take our small parts sprue and snip off any of the parts that we need. The bits in yellow on here is just me trying to identify and show you where super glue is going to go during the build. So we've got the top hinge closers, we're going to take those off. We're also going to take off the switch as well to lock the door, and the small little forked part, that is the key that goes on the other side of the door switch to lock that in place. We need to clean these up with a sharp hobby knife. Just take your time doing this. Okay, once that's complete, we're going to take the main body and we're going to fit the door switch, or the roof switch I should say. So these two parts, the key and the switch, go together just like that, either side of the main body. So first of all, slot the switch into place, and you can see on the other side, on the inside of the fuel tank, there is an area for the key to slot down into. So you see it goes on either side of the lock, and we're going to have to push that down until it clicks into place. Now to hold it there, we're going to need some super glue. So we're just going to place a small bit of super glue to hold that key in place. The yellow dot on here shows where we're aiming for, and it's just below the little recess on the main body. And we'll slide that into position, making sure that it's on either side of the lock and in the slot. And once it's in position, you'll get a better view in a second of how that's supposed to look when it's completed. Okay. Now let that dry before moving on to the next step. And you can see that the switch moves up and down freely, and hopefully that'll be the case after you've let it dry. Now we're going to take the main chute and fit that into the main body. There are two slots on either side of the main body, and you've got a little yellow mark on here to show where I'm aiming for with the super glue. Doesn't need to be a huge amount of super glue, it's just enough to hold that chute in place. So slot it in from the top, press it down on either side until it is square into the bottom of the chute. And again, at this point I would leave that to dry. Okay, you can see it's square in the bottom, correctly positioned, and ready to move on to the next step. So then we're going to take the door inner and outer. So the door inner goes on, and then the door outer goes on afterwards. The door outer goes on the same side as the switch that we just put in, so that the little notch in it will lock in place into the roof. And then these are the two hinge closer parts. You've got to make sure these go the right way around. Again, they only fit in one way, and there's a small slot in the top of the main body that these will go into, and that's where you need to apply the glue. So we're going to do that now. Making sure that we don't get any glue onto any of the moving parts. So we're going to put some glue into the slot and a little bit on the surface where the hinge closer part will go. But you can see we're being careful here not to let any glue go near those hinges or to let it spread onto where those hinges will go. And you simply press it down into place, make sure it's square all the way around and got a really good seal, and then do the same for the other side. What I don't do in this video, which you need to do, is to leave it to dry before moving on to the next step. Okay, press that down, so it needs to go right into the slot. There you go, that's pressed down completely now, and we will leave that to dry before moving on. Then we take the door. So this is the 16mm door interfacing with the 16mm chute. And you can see on one side there's a hole, and on the other side there's like a slot. So you want to put it into the hole first and then push it up into the slot. And in this design you push that side up until it makes a click, and then it should be in place. So fairly firm click, and you can see that door still moves and rotates, but it's not going to come out. Now there is a part we're going to put in later, which is a hinge closer part, which will help us to make sure that that can't come out in the future at all. It's not really required, so if you feel like you've got a good enough print and a good enough fit of the door, you don't need to move on and put that part on if you don't want to. So here we are, we're showing the switch in the pushed up position should locate into the roof outer and stop that from opening. And when that's pushed down, it will move out the way and you can open the roof. You can see I've not left it to dry here, so those parts are still moving. And then to open the main door at the front, you need to slide the slider out the way and to allow the door to open. So you can put dice inside the chute and underneath inside the box at the bottom when you're taking them to your games. and then by closing the slider, closing the roof and locking the switch, that'll keep those dice in there and they won't spill out into your bag. There we are, it's fully closed. So optional step, if you'd like to, you can go ahead and fit the hinge closer mechanism. So take that off the small part sprue, clean it up again with a hobby knife, and this fits in over the top of the open hinge on the door. Small bit of super glue will hold that in position. Again, make sure that you don't get any super glue onto the moving parts at all, otherwise they will lock up. See the correct positioning there. We can apply a small bit of super glue in that area, again not touching anywhere near the door hinge, and we're going to place that in the correct orientation. There's a little notch that needs to slide into a groove, so that helps you to identify the right orientation, and then press that down in position, and again let that dry. And the slider goes in with the flat end first, and the lock on the bottom holds it in place. There we are, we're finished. We're going to build the Cathedral of Ruin rapid fire dice box now. I've got the main body part in my hand there, and the next part is the door. This is the 16mm door. As you can see, it fits nicely with the opening of the chute for the 16mm chute. Then we've got the two roof parts, the outer on my left and the inner part on the right. As you can see, they slot together to form the floor of the cathedral roof. And the topper, this goes on to lock the roof parts in place. The small part sprue has three parts on it. It has the skull lock, it has two small bottom hinge closers. They need to be fitted after the door has been placed in. There's some small parts where the sprue attaches onto those, so just trim those off with a sharp craft knife. Take your time to do this. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to attach the chute into the main body itself. There are two little recesses in the main body where we can apply super glue that the chute arms will fall into. We're not applying too much super glue here, making sure it doesn't go anywhere where we don't want it to, and we just place the chute in directly from the top. As you can see, it's nice and square, and at this stage I would leave that to dry before moving on to the next step. So the next step is to take the skull lock, which is a small arm that goes down into a slot in the top of the main body. So slot that in and just make sure it's free to move. And then we want to put the roof parts in. So on the opposite side of the door opening goes the roof inner, and then the roof outer goes on after that on the door side of the dice box. As you can see, the conical axle slot into the corresponding areas on the top of the dice box. So make sure that's nicely lined up before we move on to the next step. And the next step is to apply the topper. So to hold that in place, we're going to need to apply some super glue. As you can see, it's going to go, there's only one way around it will fit. As you can see, where the door inner it's slightly narrower, and there's two little sort of square protrusions on the inside of the topper to make sure that it goes on in the correct orientation. I'm pointing to there. So we're going to get some super glue now, and we're going to apply it on the outside of those axle raising parts, and we're going to also apply it onto the top surfaces where the topper will interface with the main body. We're not going to put too much in. We don't want the super glue to spread out when we press it down and go onto the roof or the lock itself. So as you can see here, I'm being fairly careful to make sure that I'm not putting too much super glue on and that it's not going to spread out over onto the moving parts. And run some super glue down this edge here just to make sure that it's nicely sealed up when you close the topper on. Okay, and then it's a simple case of aligning it to make sure you've got the topper on the right way and pressing firmly down in all four corners at the same time, and press and hold that down now so that you've got a good seal. Just make sure that your roof switch still moves and didn't get any super glue on it. So again, at this stage, leave that to dry before moving on to the next step. Okay, the next one is the door. So there are two slots in the bottom of the main body that the conical axles of the door slot into, and as you can see there, you push them up from both sides and it presses and clicks into place. There is now two hinge closer parts which need to be fitted, and they go on either side of the door. Make sure you get those the right way around, so you want the wider section to open to the door side so that the cone is in the right position to allow the door to rotate freely. So I'm pressing that into the right position. I'm using a craft knife just to make sure I've fitted it correctly, and I make sure that the super glue I've put on doesn't go onto the door hinge itself, and I'm going to apply a little bit more super glue around the edge just to seal that into position. Again, not too much, I don't want the super glue to spread onto the hinges. And I'm going to do the same on this side, a little bit of super glue on the inside, making sure it doesn't flow down onto the hinge, and I'm going to orient the switch in the correct way, lining up the little grooves and the axle hinge to make sure it fits in nice and snug. And again, at this stage I would leave that to dry before moving on. And the last step is to take the slider. It goes in flat end first and slides all the way into the bottom, and that locks the door in place so the door can't come out when you're transporting your dice, and allows you to store your dice in there nice and safe. So as you can see, the door won't open with that slider in place. Slide it out, now the door will open and you can slide that back into position. And the roof opens freely when the lock is switched to the left. When you switch the lock to the right hand side, you can't open your dice box, so then you can store your dice in the top without them spilling out in transport. So to close it, you need to open the slider again, close the lid, and then switch your lock to the right hand side, locking it in place, and we're done.